moderating this lovely discussion today.
Fantastic. Well, I turn it over to you. Jacob Dietz is a leader and a fantastic person. I think just interacting with him virtually, and hopefully we get to meet someday in person, is such a positive experience. You have so much mindfulness of other people, and you're always fully in. One of the things I notice about you is that you're not doing your emails and things like that. You are in the meeting. Your mind is in the call. Clearly today it will be because you're leading the discussion. However, even generally, it's really refreshing that you have that perspective. And I love the fact of how you look to help other members and other human beings on a daily basis. So thanks for all that you do. And I turn over the conversation to you.
Thank you, Doug. I mean, another incredible introduction. And it's like what I was telling somebody, a couple people earlier today, including new member Pamela Ruiz. Connecting for me, it's like I see it as my job. I see it, if I connect somebody, I'm connecting quality. And so I always appreciate the gratitude and will always say you're welcome. But for me, I see it as a necessity and my role that is I like being that person that can look from above. And but yeah, just to kick it off, hey everyone, like welcome. This is our third installment, and I'm thrilled to be kicking off this special edition of the Global Chamber AI series. And as a member-driven organization, the Global Chamber fuels cross-border connections for businesses of all sizes. Through events like this, it promotes the exchange of ideas and helps companies understand the latest technologies and trends shaping the future and how to leverage them for growth. So today we're diving deep into the fascinating world of language AI. Think about those instant translations that you get by on vacation, the chatbots that are getting surprisingly human-like, even those tools that make your writing shine. That's the power of language AI in action. But today we're going deeper than just the everyday stuff. And I'm not alone in this exploration. Joining me in co-hosting this series is the astounding Yuka Nakasone, who will also be sharing her expertise and experience in this field today as a guest speaker. Yuka is the brilliant mind behind Global Bridge, a company that helps businesses navigate the complexities of global communication. With over 25 years of experience making sure companies connect across cultures and languages, Yuka is a champion of globalization, and she'll be an incredible guide on this journey. And I'm honored to introduce our guest speaker, and as if you heard earlier, a new member of the Global Chamber, the Seoul tribe member of Global Chamber of Valencia, Manuel Herranz, the CEO and founder of Pangionic. This company is on a mission to make AI more multilingual, accurate, and ethical. Not only is Manuel an expert in natural language processing, but he's also an MIT Sloan School of Management graduate and a fierce advocate for ethical AI, which I highly commend. He'll give us a peek behind the curtain of how this technology works its magic. So here's what's coming up. We're going to, like always, demystify this complex field of language AI, explore how it's reshaping the way we communicate, maybe even bust a few myths along the way. Plus, we'll unpack the potential opportunities for businesses, big and small, and how to navigate this landscape strategically. All right, everyone, that's a taste of the incredible world of language AI and almost enough of me speaking, but we've really only just scratched the surface. To get us deeper into the nitty-gritty, I'm handing things over to a true expert, Manuel Herranz, the CEO of Pangionic. Manuel has been at the forefront of language AI for years, and his company, Pangionic, is leading the charge in making this technology more multilingual, accurate, and just plain awesome. He's going to take us on a journey through the history of language AI, from its early days to the cutting-edge applications that are changing the way we communicate. So get ready to have your mind just gently expanded. Manuel, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so this is, thank you, Jacob, a very good introduction, very good introduction. So this is only an introduction to the world of AI. So for the next 5 hours, I will summarize Whether he's no, I'll do it. I'll do it in 10 minutes. So I've prepared a very short presentation that I hope to run in 10 minutes, if I may. And then it will give you an overview of what language AI, how things like GPT and have come about, whether they come from, and from a developer's point of view. We are in that world. We develop custom LLMs and RAG systems, etc. So how we people that are on the development side look at it. So how can I share the screen? Okay, yeah, got it. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're here today to talk about language AI and ethical AI. And the difference is between ethical, I mean, you can run things that are ethical AI and still end up with a bad product. Okay. So let's frame where we are, what is language AI, and how AI actually deals with language a lot. And Janik, myself, are devoted to language technology that is called natural language processing. The processing of language can take many shapes and forms. Text is the obvious one, but can also be speech. Doesn't necessarily include image in NLP, but it's a science that is very closely related to the processing of language, etc. So here on the left, we see natural language processing and the things that we can do when we have tons and tons and tons and loads of data. We can extract names and entities from text, that street, the other street. We can detect hate speech, detect bias, classify. We can run we can develop machine translation systems, Q&A, question answering system, chatbots, for example. And then develop natural language understanding and natural language generation, which is what lead us to the types of GPTs, etc. Everything is part of what we call deep learning and a branch of AI. So before I go on, I'd like to step back 120 years and show you how the French thought the future was going to be in the late 19th century. And they thought, well, this is a cartoonist. They used to get these postcards in a packet of cigarettes in Paris in 1890 something. And they thought, well, in the future, people will not read because the teacher will feed all these books into a machine and the machine will tell students, blah, 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 Alice in Wonderland, the 5 laws of physics. Blah, blah, blah. They will not need to, knowledge will come to you. You will not go to knowledge. Magic. Okay, visionary. But the same person that drew this also drew this. And drew this, this is the picture of how people will communicate in the future. Of course, flying is the latest of the latest technology in 1895. The latest of the latest that people are achieving is living in skyscrapers, very tall buildings. So in the future, the latest technology, flying, will deliver letters to the people living in the highest floors. What I'm trying to say with this is that we cannot escape the frame of mind, the times that we live. It's very difficult for us to imagine the repercussions of a technology. So the same person that is conceptualizing, we will be able to get all this data and crunch it in a machine, and people will consume this data from a machine, cannot imagine that you will need tons of electricity and you will need things like internet to communicate with people. That you don't need a postman to deliver a message to the 15th floor. All right. So we come to the 19th century, 20th century. A lot of things happen. When we start 21st century, before we enter technology, we see that there is a concern about personal data, what companies are doing with personal data, okay? The Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Googles, the Gmails, etc. Before anything like large language models come about. Okay, we had national laws protecting people's data, more or less, in different stages in different countries. And then GDPR comes in Europe because politicians, the European Commission thinks, well, we don't like so much our data flying around the world and being used for purposes that people are not aware of. Okay, so my emails that I'm writing on Gmails, etc. And this actually coincides with the speed and the steps that language AI, that language technologies have taken. Until 2016, more or less, okay, we had national laws. Every country bunkerized. Okay, but the only law you had to comply with is not share people's emails and names. The technology that we had at the company and in general was called statistical machine translation, for example, and it was it was revolutionary at the time. Looking at it now, it was quite deficient in many ways. So it was rule-based, finding rules, and if you have this in this language, the other language has to say, you have this word in French, has to be this word in English, for example. In 2018, with the advent of GDPR and the beginning of the California consumer CCPA in the States, etc., coincidentally, we begin to use neural networks, which will open a new universe of possibilities, because you're not strictly finding patterns between a number of words, but you're finding patterns in a window that is a sentence that can be 20 odd words, approximately 80 characters. And from 2021, 22, we began the first large language models, the Da Vinci, the GPT-2 comes along, and then GPT-3, 3.5 in late 2022. I just want to throw this to you, how there is data privacy going on one way and then the technology going on the other way. Okay? Sometimes they match, sometimes they don't. In this case, they do. Look at how LLMs are created over here. They need tons and tons of data, not the mini data that even I downloaded and used for my machine translation systems. So GPT 3.5, not 4 is different because they're adding more things, is built on a huge amount of data. Somebody said that it would take a person approximately 20,000 years reading the amount of text that has gone into the training. But it's not so much. It's not only the vast amounts, but also the depth of it. And it combines two different systems, but with a very clever idea. We have a lot of data, okay, which in GPT-1, GPT-2, you had to query and you needed to know a little bit about scripting and you needed to know a little bit of Python and so on. Okay, so it wasn't for the public, with the concept of, so kids cannot use it, with the concept of chatbots. So rather than opening a window and writing scripts, let's have a conversational model. Something that anybody, any housewife, students can use because it's chatty. It's very easily accessible. The technology was there before. It's just that we've made it, we've hybridated it into something more accessible. And by the way, this is not current, but in the early versions, the window of attention opened quite a bit. We're not talking about neural networks that look at one sentence after sentence, but we're looking at an attention window that spans over 8,000 words or 64,000 words, a lot. And that's why you have the first cognitive experience with a machine. I mentioned this in every forum, every presentation that I ran. Until late 2022, humans thought that language was something that only humans had. Okay, maybe the whales, maybe the dolphins had something like a language, but just to say, here's food, or I'm looking for a partner, I'm ready to eat. So, and bees, here's honey. there are flowers there. It's not so anymore. We have machines that can produce language to a degree of fluency that only human could master. Even though they may hallucinate, we can disagree with what the machine is saying. But we humans are not very good at distinguishing what is real or not real. Let me explain that. If you put some glasses on for virtual reality, people suffer. People have a shock because they feel they're falling down the cliff or in water. We know we have glasses on, but our reptile brain doesn't. So the experience is the same. It's a cognitive experience. The same happens when we use LLMs and we find that they reply to us in a chatty system with what we interpret to be intelligence. It's not, but it's certainly fluid.
It's never been harder to win than right now. Why? Because every single day.
Sorry, what was that? Was that a question?
No, I think you're good, Manuel.
Okay,
You
good.
continue.
Right, so going back to the privacy, what nobody likes is to find that the data, such as this, is part of the training. So you can go to ChatGPT or some other model and say, "Who's Manuel Herranz?" Bam! And it get more or less the truth. Sometimes it's not accurate, varies from day to day. It's a language model. But we have that kind of cognitive experience. Right. So you might say, I don't like that. I don't like my data. AI is going to take over my job. Everything that I do is too clever. I can't compete. I'm just a person. How can I compete with AI systems? Well, number one, systems should be, I'm not saying they are, but should be built on the 4 principles of ethical AI. Everybody says they comply with this. The truth is, you're lucky if you need 2. Privacy, for sure, okay, because they're hosted on my server, right? Security, yes, you're not breaking into my system, but most systems are not transparent, they're not fair and accountable, okay, sometimes. Accountable, sometimes. Basically, what we find currently is that there is a race among big tech to get hold of all types of data they can find for AI training. If you comply with the 4 principles of ethical AI, transparency, accountability, okay, you may stand up like one of the good guys in the jungle, but that doesn't mean that you are doing things perfectly well. This is an example that I'm sure that everybody knows from Gemini that has been recalled by Google. But this is the product. Most people were not surprised that Gemini could produce things like this, because models, at the end of the day, reflect the bias or the preferences of the creators. This is something that Ilya Sutskever from OpenAI actually also said. Models are not intelligent, then don't reason, they're not designed to reason. However, they are a reflection of the patterns of the data that people put in. And then I'm going back to the statistical models that I mentioned earlier. They're built on patterns. So me, the creator, me, the developer, I choose the type of data that I put in or not in my model. And that will reflect obviously on the output. So how can you reduce hallucinations? How can you reduce, how can you constrain the type of questions and answers? The science has advanced immensely in the last year. There is one solution called RAG systems that probably everybody knows. RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And basically, this means that you have a model, a large language model sitting on a server, and you build a knowledge tool on top of it. This knowledge tool is populated by your own data. This can be your website, your internal documents, HR documents, the competitors' websites, the value making if you're into healthcare, or any type of data. So these models produce a question and a chat bot system, an assistant, again, that utilizes the power of the LLM to generate language, but only looking at your data. So there are no hallucinations. That is magic, because I'm not banking on GPT, or I'm not banking on an Mistral or a Baidu system to tell me who was Charles I, or who was Vladimir Putin or Stalin, or the first president of the United States. They will actually say what I want them to say. I will use that fluency, that human-like language generation capability, but only with my data. And this is a godsend for people that are very, implementing Gen AI or want an ethical use of AI. With these type of systems, there are a number of companies that provide this service. The advantage is that you can substitute documents. So if our policies change in this gas station or supermarkets, and tomorrow everybody has to come in wearing orange, I only have to change the document, and then the chatbot say, "Hey, employees, from tomorrow everybody wears orange." Okay, so to close, I think I did it in 10 minutes or so.
Great. Thank you very, very much.
Well, Manuel, did you want to go through this slide?
Oh no, this is just a summary of what I talked about.
Awesome.
The fact GPTs, okay, that you can build systems that are factual and not general, like GPTs, the RAG, and for people and organizations in language generation or language technology, privacy is always key.
That, Manuel, thank you. That was really a fascinating deep dive into the history and applications of language AI, the importance of ethical AI, and I think it's so important to put that knowledge out about the reduction of hallucinogens, or not hallucinogens, hallucinations, just to help with wider use of the technology, because I think that is a barrier that people often place in front of them. And so big thank you to Manuel for opening our minds to the incredible possibilities this technology holds. And I want to now shift gears a bit and explore the diverse world of language AI solutions, beyond machine translations. And so for this, we'll bring in our great friend Yuka Nakasone, who is a true bridge between cultures and languages. Yuka's company, Global Bridge, helps businesses navigate the complexities of global communication. With over 25 years of experience under her belt, she's seen the evolution of language AI firsthand and knows how to leverage it to build connections across borders. Yuka is going to take us on a tour of some of these exciting solutions, including things like automatic speech recognition and sentiment analysis. And to make things even more engaging, she's even got a special video to show us. So let's give Yuka a warm welcome. Welcome to the stage, Yuka.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I mean, first to Jacob to guiding us through this webinar, right? Very much. And then Manuel to really share the expertise in this language industry. I've been a colleague in the same industry, language industry, for a long time, and I've been talking to him for years and years, because we are some of the people in the industry who really looked at the technology and innovation of the language industry. And sometimes people didn't believe what we were saying, right? But things were evolving because both of us saw the first automatic translation born. We worked on it from the manually translating technical document. I did lots of Microsoft technical documents. I did translate it with hand typing, but it became to half machine, half revising. Then with the statistics, it went automatic. This started when I left the States, which means early 2000 already, right? And from there, AI evolved. We saw this machine translation is one of the AI. So when people are talking about AI and they didn't know, I usually asked, like 5 years ago, I usually asked, have anybody used AI in your life? And people are thinking, no, right? But I said, but how about automatic translation? And they said, oh yes, that's what something I used. And I say that's exactly that one of the AI applications that we have in the world. And like you saw in his presentation, he had a very concise, nice explanation about what AI is. And many things comes with natural language processing, meaning processing, understanding, processing, and generating the language which comes from our industry. So the language industry who have been doing translation or interpretation are really engaged with this process of developing AI for a long time, as long as 20 or 30 years. So this is where we are, Manuel and myself. And with this experience, we experience this LLM appearance. I mean, LLM is a large language model, which is a cousin of neural machine translation, which is Google Translate. Google Translate is one of the AI translation, automatic translation. And LLM is using the same kind of modeling, but it's a cousin. It's not exactly the same. The intention of LLM is generation. Large language model is generative AI, generating language from AI, whereas neural machine translation, the intention is translate one language to another. So these are cousins that we saw, and that's why where we live, language industry, translation, interpretation, maybe, you know, like editing, generating source content, we are deeply engaged with this AI evolution right now. And for example, talking about images, if you show, for example, Google, what's this building is, there's an AI to say, oh, this is White House, or this is like Signal. Why the AI knows what it is? Because somebody was typing in, labeling all the images until now. That was a part of our job, language industry. I know some big companies doing labeling all the images in many languages. It's not translation, it's just recognizing the image and labeling and preparing for the image, right? So we are in the language industry and we are language people, but we are deeply involved with the AI evolution, including images. That's what I wanted to show something, somehow, that people understand language is really the key for AI. AI is what? I mean, like algorithm and data. And data is what? Usually language and numbers, right? So that's how we are involved in this AI evolution. And as Manuel was talking about machine translation, neural machine translation, and LLM, I just wanted to show some things that he said at the beginning, but didn't explain a lot, like automatic speech recognition, which you may be using, but you don't know. That's the language solution, language AI. And I'm going to try to reproduce a video, and I'm going to share my screen then. Let's see. Can you hear?
No, not yet.
How can I
I think if you, when you hit the share the screen sign, it'll give you the option of share with audio.
Share with audio? So stop sharing and basic, advanced. Video. Share.
Global IT Desk Support. My name is Mike. How can I help you?
Ich bin's, Karen. Ich habe ein riesiges Problem. Mein Drucker funktioniert nicht und dann...
Do you see it? Can you hear?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. So I'd like you to see the right side of the screen where you can see all the text coming out. This is the console analyzing what the AI is doing. So it is intent speech have initialized, speech to text via Microsoft speech to text is activated. So this is doing detecting the speech and converting into text. This is one type of AI. And then detected text was analyzed by sentiment analysis via IBM Watson, natural language understanding, and it was English and sentiment was neutral. And then speech to text via Google Cloud speech to text. I mean, speech was converted into the text and detecting the language, which is German.
3 Minuten habe ich eine wichtige Präsentation.
It's Karen. I have a huge problem. My printer does not work and I have an important presentation in a few.
So the customer is calling and saying, kind of mad, and saying in German, my printer doesn't work. And if you see the sentiment analysis, it is detecting that sentiment is negative. Do you see it? And then machine translation hub is initialized and machine translating into English, and then glossary is activated to include the correct language, and then blah, 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 machine translation from German to English was done by Yandex Cloud. You see all this, and then the text was converted into speech via Microsoft text-to-speech technology, which is another kind of AI.
Minutes.
Let me check. Please specify which printer you are sending the document to.
Lassen Sie mich nachsehen. Bitte geben Sie an welchen Drucker Sie das Dokument senden.
I don't know if you saw it or not, but when the client said, something in negative, that they translated text to speech to neutral, so that the agent doesn't get that negative emotional charge to serve well. So this tool is for agents to serve in multilingual way, and this is thought to facilitate the work for the agent.
Das sollten Sie doch schon wissen. Jedes Mal stellen Sie mir die gleichen Fragen. Lösen Sie doch einfach mein scheiß Problem.
You should know that already. Every time you ask me the same questions. Just solve my problem.
Just solve my problem. But this negative connotation is going to be removed. I don't know if you saw it, alert, content moderation via Microsoft Content Moderator, action, profanity removed. This is all the work AI is doing back of this automatic translation in speech.
I just rebooted the printer, and now you should see it on the local network and send the document to print.
Ich habe gerade den Drucker neu gestartet und jetzt sollten Sie ihn im lokalen Netzwerk sehen und das Dokument zum Drucken senden.
Okay, danke.
So the agent wasn't charged with the emotion, so he can solve the problems and he can say things very formally and then solve the problem, and the customer was happy.
Okay, thanks.
I'm happy to help. Goodbye.
Ich helfe Ihnen gerne, auf Wiedersehen.
So stop sharing. Did you see what the language AI is? Yeah, it's really like a detecting language to converting speech to text, and then detecting some kind of sentiment if it's needed and if it used, and then translating maybe, and then processing something, and then you know, blah blah blah. So there are lots of things involved, and if we say language AI, maybe you understand only translation, but there are many things like automatic speech detection or whatever it is. And in his slide, there's a natural language processing, and they're kind of at the bottom, natural language understanding and natural language generation. So there are lots of AI that is pretty amazing in this AI space, language AI space. And if you see, for example, Siri in Apple, that's one of the language AI as well. So, you know, all the Alexa, Siri, all the kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to share. And thank you very much for your attention.
Wow.
And that's it.
Fantastic, Yuka. I mean, just watching that video, like I mean, I probably I have a hard time hiding my facial expressions. But just that's mind blowing to me, and just the speed, but also how interesting it is that you can translate and in like live reduce conflict potential. You know, and another interesting thing that popped into my head first is like somewhat as like a joke, but then it really sort of evolved more into like thinking of it in terms of a question for y'all later. But like with German accents, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between emotions, I think, for a lot of people that don't speak German. And so yeah, that, oh man, yeah, my mind is just spinning, but I want to let my mind spin and put it back on the audience. And so it's your turn. So we have some time set aside for Q&A. So please fire away with any questions you might have about language AI or anything that piqued your interest during the presentations. Feel free to take yourself off mute, raise your hand. I know Manuel and Yuka are eager to dive in deeper and answer anything you throw their way, except for tomatoes. maybe they can answer that. Yeah, let's have a Q&A session. And we had some, I know we had some in the chat. Gloria, you were active in the chat and asking questions about that. I thought that was a good question about the number of potential Manuel Herenzes. And so would you like to ask that question again so maybe everyone can hear and we can dive deeper into that?
Certainly. I just saw when I was watching the slide and who is, etc. I thought, well, if you put my name in, you're going to come up with about 5 different Gloria Petersons. Some of them have deceased, some of them are still with us, and it's like, how does it differentiate which Gloria Peterson you're actually looking for? And one is even a doctor of cancer research. So I've got multi-personalities out there, evidently.
Shall I take that one, Jacob?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, number one, the key to, okay, so we have a language model, right? And then we have a different series of neural networks and analyzing what the prompt is, what the question is conveying, or what the question is pointing at. Imagine that I'm John Smith, okay? Who is John Smith? There are millions of people called John Smith. If the question is so succinct, it will provide the answer that is statistically more relevant, the one that has the highest chances of being the most plausible answer. The same happens with machine translation. You get a word after the other, and the string of words in a sentence that to us look like an understanding of the source are nothing of understanding. Basically, a machine translation system is giving you the next word that has the highest chances of happening after the word that is given you, looking at the source as a reference. That is why they're called regressive LLMs, auto-regressive. I give you a word, then I give you another word. Now, considering the 2 words that I've given you, what are the chances of me giving you this 3rd word? Same happens when the question is, who's John Smith? Or who's Manuel Aranz? Or who's Sophia? Or who's Yuka? If I provide more information, who is Manuel Aranz in Valencia? Okay, I'm giving you more chances. I'm narrowing down how many Manuel Aranzes are in Valencia. If it's a very general question, like I put in there, the magic was that I did not give the system any more. There are not many Aranzes, okay, but I did not give the system any more information, just my name. Who am I? And the system did get right who I was most of the time. Sometimes it was wobbly. Sometimes it doesn't give you the right answer and hallucinates. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yeah, I think what I've got from that is when you are doing a search on someone, to give as much information as you have on that person so it can narrow it down and you are getting the correct information on the person you're looking for. Correct?
Yeah, it will give you the answer that is statistically more relevant. So if I find, I don't know, 50,000 Jacobs in my training set, and then 10,000 dates, and how many Jacob dates happen together? Maybe 20. Okay, I will gather data from all those. Now, if you say Jacob dates at Global Chamber, there is only one, and I will give
that we know of,
and we know it. And then I'll give you more data. The science of obtaining good data from LLM is in the prompt.
Okay. Thank you.
Now, don't forget that before we ask ChatGPT or our system or any other Mistral, any system that is open out there, there is always a number of pre-prompts sitting on top. So we have the impression that we are chatting directly to the system. We're not. There are layers of security running on top. So there are certain things that even if you try to, the system will not respond because it has a guardrail, a safeguard here, saying do not answer offensive or do not answer in an improper way, or engage in a amenable and agreeable way. I can change hours in 20 seconds the way it replies just by playing about with the pre-prompt.
And that's I feel like one thing how I've looked at using generative AI, things like ChatGPT and Google Gemini. I sort of embrace my old days as a teacher. Just as a teacher, my students would get what I gave them in terms of knowledge and science and a good educational experience. If I just sat up there with a worksheet every day, and they would have maybe a less ideal educational experience. It's the same thing with these models. If you put in a basic prompt, a lot of times the response won't be as ideal, and so it's that back and forth trial and error.
Yeah, but Jacob, you're talking about a general system. If I was, and undoubtedly this is going to happen, AI is gonna hit education, and it's going to hit legal, healthcare, many verticals. The LLM that you're going to deploy will be fine-tuned for the specific case. Whether it is data being injected into the model itself, okay? So we start forgetting Little Red Riding Hood and Moby Dick and those things that are relevant to my healthcare use case, or just having the system and then running a RAG on top. It is going to happen. It is going to happen. What LLMs or AI, more AI really than LLM is a piece it's part of the puzzle, but an LLM is not AI. I mean, it's AI in the way that it's a component of AI. It's like sugar in juice or sugar in Coca-Cola. There is sugar in Coca-Cola, but sugar is not necessarily Coca-Cola. Okay, there are more things inside.
You're speaking my language as a guy born in Atlanta as a Coca-Cola guy, but I want to be able to give some of our other attendees some chances. And so I know, Joanne, I just saw you took yourself off mute, and then I'd love to, after Joanne, if Emmy, you are also very active in the chat, if you'd like to ask a question or provide some input. But Joanne, would love to pass it over to you.
Yeah, I finished a book. It's fascinating. It's called Tracer in the Dark. It's about law enforcement, the FBI, how they caught so many criminals behind Bitcoin because, the crypto transaction, they thought it was anonymous. It was not. It was actually the most traceable way, not for criminals to hide their identity, but you can trace their identity. So I have a similar question about OpenAI, ChatGPT. When I use ChatGPT, of course, it documents my prior queries. So I can go back, say 3 days ago, what did I ask? But does ChatGPT remembers me in an open, transparent way? So assuming there is a criminal, I'm not a criminal, okay? A criminal is querying, asking all kinds of strange questions. And then the law enforcement wants to find evidence. Can they find the evidence the same way they were using cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, to trace them? Is it when they use OpenAI, is there any privacy expected?
No. 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 You agree to the terms of service, which are that the use of the system implies that any data that you create or any prompts or questions that you make to the systems will be OpenAI has the right to reuse them for training purposes.
Okay, on the other side of the coin, okay, so if I have some, let's say, proprietary or confidential or personal information, and I input it to ChatGPT 3.4, okay, and they promised it's protected. Do I have any concern? My information inputted there and say, okay, here's a 20-page document, summarize it into 1 page. Should I be worried? My 20-page actually are not protected. They are no longer personal or private. Even though they promise it is.
If you want a private system, my recommendation is that you get in touch with somebody that can provide a similar service, so you run the infrastructure internally in your AWS or your server, your data center, etc. We do.
Yeah. So that I call it closed circuit. That's the closed circuit. The enterprises are using their closed circuit AI. Okay. Is that similar to what you said is what's that acronym? You introduced a slide called I can't remember.
I can share the presentation if you want.
Yeah, it was it seems like closed circuit, but I don't know the difference. By the way, closed circuit is not the official description. It's what, like, let's say Cisco or Apple, they have their internal AI that they don't share ever with the public.
Yeah. Nvidia has one, and Baidu has another one. Okay. And the way this works, same with Gmail. And the fact that Google was said to read your, well, no, Google does not read your emails. Google doesn't have an army of people reading whether you're booking something with, or you're saying, son, when are you going? No, it doesn't work that way. Google has algorithms that read and more than reprocess what people are writing, same as WhatsApp, same as many other systems. When you work with a free system, then you're the product. Nobody gives anything for free. If you're using something for free, you're the product. So basically, you're giving these companies your time to improve the product, to improve the service. You're the product. So by me asking questions, OpenAI or Gemini, all these systems will get statistics on usage, on how people like or dislike, and also the answer. The more you say this on your answers, the more I'm going to refine my system, because I know that my answer to you was relevant or was not relevant, you didn't like it. If I have to pay, I need an army of people ranking, which happens as OpenAI and Google paid an army of people to initially evaluate the system. That's called reinforcement learning with human feedback. Basically, you have a system, you use it, and the usage data is what reinforces what the system has to say. So there's no privacy. Okay? I'm giving you my system for free. I want your data. I want to understand the way you do it, and I want 1 million people more using the system to understand the trend on what people like or dislike.
Yeah,
and if you want to deploy this, then you have to go private. Data center, server, etc.
It's the it's the give and take, right? It's the risks that you have to minimize as many risks as you can. But yeah, I want to. We're at time, and so what I'd like to do is sort of wrap up. But I'm not sure if there's something directly after this, but wrap up, and then if Yuka and Manuel are able to stay on to be able to answer some additional questions. But really, this was a whirlwind tour through the world of language AI, and I really have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface. Like I said earlier, I mean, I hope you leave today with a better understanding of this transformative technology and its potential. For me, a few takeaways: language AI is breaking down barriers and making global communication more seamless than ever. You know, it's about more than just translations. Tools like sentiment analysis are changing the way we understand customers and audiences, as Yuka shared. And this technology is evolving rapidly, and it's only going to become more powerful in the future. I want to give a huge thank you to Manuel and Yuka for their incredible insights and for generously sharing their time with us. And of course, a massive thanks to the Global Chamber and for all of you for joining, asking questions, and making this such an engaging session. Now, our next one coming up, mark your calendars because this conversation is far from over. Yuka and I were talking about this as our journey is just beginning. The Global Chamber AI series continues with a special Earth Day edition where we'll tackle a truly pressing topic, AI and climate action. This is next month, April 18th. Can this technology be a friend or foe in the fight against climate change? Join us next month for what promises to be a fascinating and thought-provoking debate. Details soon. Until then, keep exploring, stay curious, and let's harness the power of language AI for a more connected and understanding world. That is it for me. Back to you, Doug, or Cesar, or Elisa.
Yeah.
Oh, Doug, you're on mute.
Great conversation. Sorry, I was on mute. I think we're going to wrap up, but if you'd like to stay on and have some additional conversation, please go ahead. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Yuka. Thanks, Manuel.
Thanks,
Hi,
everyone.
Manuel. This is Emmy Hutton. Hi, Doug. Long time no speak. How are you?
Oh, hi,
First,
Emmy. Good to see you. Long time.
good to see you. Yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of between my work, so I have a camera down. But Manuel, I have a question. I know Gen AI is commonly used in most of the companies. That's including my company that I work for. We actually developed a co-pilot, kind of like, with the multi-languages for workforce management system. My question is that can I let's say create Gen AI and super intelligent AI to be like combined and then kind of create different type of like models or a different type of like the product, like maybe possibly like a personal assistant, which you guys kind of mentioned and demonstrate a little bit. But I just kind of curious. Gen AI is a commonly used right now, but something that you can kind of incorporate with a super intelligent AI as well.
But super intelligent.
Yeah.
I wouldn't super. I wouldn't
Yeah,
call
it's a
it.
different model, right? It's a different type model. So
Yeah, but okay,
Sorry.
these models work on what we call information retrieval. So you pump in a lot of information in a model, okay? From the Wikipedia to sports, headlines, newspaper articles, blah, 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 books as well. And then that's what you're going to retrieve. Now, what the model does is find patterns between all these data. So if you ask for a list of fish, oh, I have Moby Dick in my training set. So I know there's a lot of fish there. Boom, I'll retrieve fish names from there. The fact that you've built a copilot and assistant is great. There's several ways of doing it. We sell privacy, so ours is based on closed systems. There's no data transfer. But I know people that don't need that level of privacy or that level of security and build experiences on Microsoft Copilot, which is fine. It's very good. Now, you have to put all your data, all your files, etc., on SharePoint, and that is what Microsoft reads. It's very quick way of doing it for certain applications. Okay, very good, and quite easy to use. For other deployments, it may fall too short.
Got it. Yeah, the reason I asked this question was that I mentioned earlier it was a workforce management system and we're expanding to EU and APAC, right? Now, when you kind of deep down a little bit, workforce management is mostly targeted for like an hourly workers, contractors, right? It's like it relates to like a labor law. So you have to kind of like continuously updating the labor law per country, per city, per state, wherever the region that you're at, right? So just kind of curious to see how we can kind of expand that to ethical AI as well as that. So
I understand. I don't know how you build your assistants, but there are how do you collect how do you collect information to feed the system? To
Yeah,
give it
so for mostly the labor data is we have a third party providing that. And we actually, like you mentioned, that when we do the co-pilot, we actually updating that information daily basis. With the, but again, labor law doesn't change daily basis. So we're kind of trying to kind of make it like more so the, monthly basis, things like that. But just kind of find a more better way to collect the data.
I'll tell you how we do it. There's many ways, but one very standard way is to either crawl the web, crawl what you call ground truths. So these websites, let's say, I don't know, the IRS. Okay, so if the IRS publishes there's a new tax to pay, or the tax rate has changed, they will always publish something on the web, or a document that you download. So crawling certain websites keeps it updated. And also the ability to inject your own documents. With Microsoft Copilot, you put all your stuff in SharePoint, and it will read all your stuff on SharePoint. With the system that we have and other people have, it is up to you to upload the document. So at least tell, okay, is this Google Drive, or is this Dropbox that you can, or I personally upload the documents, and then as you change the documents, the system provides an updated answer.
And I can perhaps do the automation as well, right? Once I can kind of create as a delta, the new data come in, just basically update that and then automate that as well.
Yeah. It's like the example I mentioned earlier. In some job that we did for a supermarket, okay, the dressing code was such. Okay, I'm gonna say green. Okay, so everybody at this supermarket had a green polo, a green jumper, green shirt. Okay, if the supermarket decided that from January the 1st, 2025, everybody's gonna wear white, all they have to do is change the document. The HR policy where everybody's wearing green to wearing white. So any questions? The documents disappear. Now the reference says white, not green.
I see. Got it. Yeah, I don't want to take everybody else's time, so I do appreciate that, Emmanuel. I like to kind of reconnect and perhaps have a further conversation. That would be great.
Pleasure. You can. I'll put my LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm easily reachable.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions that they want to ask? I mean, we're all still here, so I'm guessing some people want to chat a little bit more. Yeah, Sophia. Oh, you're just waving. Like that whole when I was teaching, it's like, were you stretching or raising your hand? Yeah, no. Anybody else have any questions before we shut this down for the day?
Sorry.
Well, yeah. Well, I just want to say thank you again to everyone, and thank you, Amira, thank you, Ruby, Tessa, Elisa, of course, Doug, Thierry, Emmy, and Nee. Thank you all for hanging around, and thank you, Manuel and Yuka. Excellent presentation. People were super locked in and engaged, and this is the future, and it's ever evolving. And so I'm glad to have some experts like y'all in my network to help me understand it better.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Thank you very, very much, Jacob.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.